Tighten your lines as we get ready to sail the 7 seas on the Political Pirate Podcast. Join Captain Ted Yoho and the salty dog John Martin as they search far and wide for the greatest treasure of all, the truth. From local Florida news to nationwide stories and the globe beyond, we've got it all mapped out. Now here's your hosts, the salty dog John Martin and Captain Ted Yoho.
Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the 3 Ps, the Political Pirate Podcast with the host, John Martin, and the captain of our pirate ship, as always, in parts unknown, Mr. Ted Yoho. Good morning, Ted. How are you?
Good morning, John. Great to hear you. Great to see you, and I'm glad to be here. And yeah, we're traveling again, but it's great, to be able to do this in America, and that's why America is such a great country. You know my story where I came from. And here we are, we're living the American dream, which is still available for everybody that chooses.
Absolutely. Keep the dream alive. Well, before we get into the meat and potatoes of the show, you and I are old alumni from UF, and we broadcast on Mondays from Steve Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. So I have to say happy homecoming to all UF fans and alumni and students, because this is homecoming weekend in Gainesville, and we're playing Mississippi State, and it's going to be an interesting game, and we'll see. But no matter what happens in the game, happy homecoming to all those that bleed orange and blue.
Isn't that the truth? I can't believe it's already homecoming, but here it is, the end of the end of October. We're coming up on it, and it's just hard to believe it's gone by this fast. And let's hope that the Gators rally for the event at the stadium there, and they do well.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to get into this. I kind of picked this topic, and Ted, I don't know how you feel about it, but I'm asking a lot of questions today. Is President Trump the GOAT? Is he the greatest of all time? Because I certainly think you could make a case that he is, or he's certainly headed in that direction to being Mount Rushmore worthy. What are your thoughts, Ted?
It's funny because I've heard people talk about that, to add another president to Mount Rushmore, and it would be Trump. When you look at what he's done, to go through one presidency, and the left was at him before he even got elected. They were after him, Obama and the deep state. And I hope that this comes out in the investigations that they're doing. And then you look at what he accomplished then. I mean, he had the Abraham Accords. He had the American Tax Cut and Job Relief Act that got passed through. Just great things. The economy was doing great. And then he got impeached twice. He survived that. And he went through all those political hacks, the lawfare that the Biden administration did with Merrick Garland. He survived that. And now here he is. And look at what he's done in 10 months that he's been in office. And, the way he is going, John, I think you're going to see more historic things happen between now and the end of his term. And does he deserve a place to be on Mount Rushmore? I think the American people will decide. I think it'll be a period of years before they put him on there, but I think he will. Looking back, you look at people like Theodore Roosevelt, George Washington, Jefferson, and Abe Lincoln, the significance that they did to America and the lasting impact. And I think Trump will have that. Just look at the Supreme Court that changed under him and the ramifications that it has for the future of America. It's going to be life-changing for this country. So, yeah.
Well, you mentioned this.
I'm sorry.
No, that's great. But you mentioned the Supreme Court, so I'm going to throw out something. I don't know if you saw this. It didn't make a whole lot of news, but the Supreme Court right now is deciding, or they're looking at a case. I think the decision won't be till next year, but it involves the state of Louisiana, and it has to do with creating districts basically that guarantee minority, in this case, most likely black representation. And whenever that's been challenged, it's basically not been held up that you can't gerrymander a district based solely on race. But the thing that's interesting about it is Ms. Jackson, the appointee from, as you mentioned, Trump's appointees, but the appointee from Joe Biden. I don't know if you saw what she said, but in her argument for the status quo, she referred to the ADA, the Americans with Disability Act, and
Right.
how that actually helped people who were disabled. And she went on, but she literally, in her comments, and I would encourage people to look them up, compared Black Americans to being handicapped, and that they needed this because they're handicapped. And first of all, I think that's insulting. And second of all, my God, man, she is a Black woman sitting on the Supreme Court saying that Black people are handicapped, forgetting, I guess, that Justice Thomas is a Black man. If you do the math, it's basically 30% of the Supreme Court is African American. Now, I'm not being critical of that, but for her to sit there and say they're handicapped when she is living proof that that's nonsense. I mean, what do you think about that, Ted? It just riled me.
I think you pointed that out very well. And if you go back to the Great Society under Lyndon Johnson, he created that. Those programs created that. They said you're behind, and it's behind because all this suppression and racism and hatred. And there was a time in our country where we didn't have that. And the civil rights movement, it needed to happen in America. This country became better at that. But here we are, that was passed in probably 66, 65, 66, 67, 1900s. And here we are 60 years beyond that, John. But they're still wanting to use that narrative with all the advancements that made that you just pointed out. 2 Supreme Court justices are African American. And you look at the demographics, that's a higher percentage than the demographics. And they want to go back and keep people in boxes and put chains on them, really put shackles on them, and say it's not your fault that you're not achieving in America. It's the oligarchs, it's the old white population that this country was founded on, and it's wrong. It's not correct, and they ought to be ashamed of themselves to do this. And they want to throw, and AOC is probably one of the worst ones on this, or the squad, I'll say. That want to go back and keep people suppressed by something that happened, a long, long time ago that we progressed beyond. We should be looking forward where we're going, and to use that race baiting stuff that they still want to do. People are tired of that, and they're over that. A lot of the minority groups are like, we don't believe that anymore, and that was evident in the last election.
Well, I guess we should hold her. We're holding her to a too high standard because she didn't even know what a woman was in her confirmation hearing. And I'm like, can't you just look down? I don't mean to be crude.
This is a man, and this is a woman. With
all she had to do was look at herself, right? And let me just say this, and we'll keep going. If you're out there, especially if you're African American, but if you believe in general what Ms. Jackson said, that Black people are literally handicapped, then here's a resolution for you. If you live in the state of Virginia right now,
right,
every one of y'all should be behind Winsome Sears for governor, because if she's truly handicapped, then she needs your help. Now, I'm not saying, she's a military person. I'm not saying she's handicapped, but if you believe it, put the rubber to the road and let your money meet your mouth and back Winsome Sears. There's your solution right there.
You know what? I think she's going to win. I think she's going to do well, and that was a good analogy, and I think spot on. Yeah, I mean it really is. She's leading, or she will be leading that, and she's done it on merit, not on DEI, not on affirmative action. That lady is a tough person that's fought her way to the top, and she deserves to be the governor there.
Yeah, I actually, just to tell you how big a fan I am of her, I actually thought she should be considered for vice presidential candidate for Trump. I really did. I mean, I think she's that qualified. But we're talking about whether or not Donald Trump is the GOAT, the greatest of all time, or becoming that. Of course, some people want to make him the south end of a northbound mule, but that's another story. But I want to.
That would be a Democrat.
Yeah, a lost one of the lost boys or girls. But I want to play a couple of different clips that kind of show you what I'm talking about here. So the first one, because, Trump is basking, rightfully so, in freeing the hostages and all of that, which kind of triggered me to say, and the Mideast peace plan and everything else. But I want to play Joe Biden and his response to what happened under his watch when Hamas attacked Israel, what his plan was. Let's play this and we'll come back and talk about it.
The United States has also enhanced our military force posture in the region to strengthen our deterrence. The Department of Defense has moved the USS Gerald R. Ford Carrier Strike Group to the Eastern Mediterranean and bolstered our fighter aircraft presence. And we stand ready to move in additional assets as needed. Let me say again, to any country, any organization, anyone thinking of taking advantage of this situation, I have one word: don't. Don't. Our hearts may be broken, but our resolve is clear.
Now there's a strategy for you. Just say don't. Just say no or whatever. Don't. I mean, it's hard to make this stuff up, dude.
I'm shaking in my boots. I mean, that guy had intimidated me so much. You know where he would be good, where he would really be intimidating and scary, is in a haunted house. You'd have to walk by him. I tell you what, I mean, he'd be he could be a lead character in a zombie movie.
Well, he'd be great in The Mummy, because The Mummy is like, barely can move, and you can be running and the mummy's just barely moving. That guy, he'd be great in the old Mummy movies.
Yeah.
But so he just says don't. And of course, in the background there, you had Kamala Harris. So I'm assuming she said she wouldn't change anything. So I'm assuming she's with that. And she recently said, I should have pulled up the video on that. She recently said that some people say I'm the greatest candidate that ever ran for, most qualified candidate that ever ran for president. I mean, my God.
A legend in her own mind. Yeah. America did right. I have faith in the American people. They did right this time. And let's hope they keep going, because they're getting educated on shows like ours.
Yeah,
educated, motivated, and activated.
The crap that keeps coming out of these people's mouths is unbelievable. I mean, I don't know if you saw this, but Kathy Griffin, I don't like to give her a lot of publicity, but she literally said, I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, but I believe Donald Trump won in a fraudulent election. An example she gave, Ted, this is why we got to educate, motivate, and activate people. The example, she said, well, he won all 7 swing states, which has never happened in the history of our country. I mean, Ronald Reagan got 49 of 50 states. Correct me if I'm wrong. And I think another presidential candidate got the same amount. I mean, how dumb either are they or do they think we are?
Well, when Rush Limbaugh talked about the Trump derangement syndrome, I don't know if he coined that, but that's a real thing out there. I mean, these people just have that hatred. And, I think Trump pointed that out in his state of address to the Congress. I'm not going to call it State of the Union because I don't think it was dubbed that, where he just said, doesn't matter what I do, they will never applaud, they'll never agree, and they have this hatred. And, it is Trump derangement syndrome. It really is. I just don't see that happening on the right. Like I said, when Obama won, I was angry. I was so angry I ran for Congress. And just because of his talk about fundamentally transforming America, which he did, was very successful at it. And had Harris one or another Democrat, this country would be over. I mean, we'd be a socialist country. And all we have to do is look at what's going on in New York about the threat if we don't wake up people and educate them.
Yeah, it's amazing. Well, and another, talk about a load of crap out there. I don't know if you saw Bernie Sanders and Ocasio-Cortez had a town hall.
I watched some of that.
Yeah, but Ocasio-Cortez literally said, and I know you love hearing from her, Ted, that she said that the right, that Republicans, she said the word Republicans radicalize young men. And she gave a list of all, let's get them armed and not radicalize young men. That may or may not be true, but my God, the Democrats cut the penises off of young men. I mean, it's just unbelievable. I don't know how else to say it. It's just crazy.
Well, since you brought her up, and Carolyn and I, as we were traveling up here, we were listening to segments of the Sanders AOC, and she has gone through a transformation. She is preparing to run. I mean, they asked her if she's going to primary Schumer, and I thought she swallowed her tongue the only time she was quiet. But the way she looks at the camera, her poise, I mean, she's going through a lot of media training, something I probably should have done. But, nobody holds her accountable. I mean, the garbage that she spews out of her mouth is just, it's so wrong. For instance, talking about the healthcare, with the shutdown of the government, if the Republicans would just allow people to have health care. Now, keep in mind what happened through COVID. The Democrats passed the Inflation Reduction Act, and then the one after that, the American Rescue Plan, which put in subsidies. Now, keep in mind, they put in subsidies during COVID. So people were already paying their insurance prior to that. So they put in subsidies up to 400% of the federal poverty line. So if you are making federal poverty line for a family of four is like $40,000. So if you're making 400 times that, you got subsidies, and it went beyond that because they removed the amount that you made, and they were giving you credit. So she's saying now that with the Republicans and in the bill when it got passed, it was supposed to expire December of 2025. We're a year and a half, 2 years out of COVID, so they want those subsidies to continue, and they're saying that we're taking healthcare away from people. All right. But nobody holds her accountable in the media and calls her out and say, why do you say we're taking healthcare away from people? We're taking away subsidies that the Democrats put in, and this is what Democrats do. They take American taxpayer money from working people and give it to people that sometimes aren't working, or they're buying votes with it. And now we just want it to go back to where the Democrats passed the bill, said would expire in 2025. And they're saying we're taking health care away from people. But the media doesn't hold her accountable on it. And I can go down a list of things that she says that nobody holds her accountable. They fawn over her. And it's just like, it's disgusting is that the media will not hold that person accountable.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was a long rant. But you brought it up. You mentioned her.
Well, since you mentioned that, I'll mention another squad member. I think her last name's Presley, the one out of Boston, Massachusetts area. She just came out and talked about how on Columbus Day, Indigenous Peoples Day, that we're all on stolen land. We need to give it back and all that kind of stuff. And we could argue all of that. But the irony of that is she just purchased a $2 million home in Martha's Vineyard.
No way. Are you serious?
Yeah. And she didn't have all that money. She got that money since she's been in Congress. But she purchased a home in Martha's Vineyard, $2 million. Of course, Obama's got $15 million. I mean, these people are so full of crap, it's unbelievable.
Well, it is. And they want to tell you how bad politics are, and they're fighting for you. It's all BS, John. This is why the American people voted Trump in, because he's not a politician. I mean, he's probably the ultimate politician, but he's not there for political gain. He's there to right this country. And like he said in his victory speech, we're entering the golden age of America, which I think we should embrace that, and he's doing that.
Yeah, who wouldn't be for that unless you're an enemy of the United States?
Yeah.
Well, I tell you, we've been talking about whether President Trump deserves to be called the GOAT, the greatest of all time. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll come back and talk about this a little bit more. But I hope you'll support our sponsors. And if you'd like to be a sponsor, look at the little tagline that says "Contact Freddie" and make that call. And we'd love to have your support. Take us out, Ted, to break.
Look forward to coming back and talking about this. And we really do appreciate our sponsors. It means a lot. We're getting this word out. We're getting more followings, and we appreciate you.
Absolutely. We'll be right back.
Although the owner of Lewis Oil Company maintains she is 29, Lewis Oil turns 60 years old in June. Chevron would like to recognize the North Florida second-generation family-owned business, celebrating its growth and staying power. Lewis Oil Company maintains significant on-hand supplies, strategically located fuel depots, a delivery fleet, on-site service, fuel card locks, and convenience stores. Lewis Oil Company understands its responsibility in the local economy by providing service and delivery on demand and in crisis. As a first responder for 18 Florida counties and the Southeast from Texas to Virginia, we are proud of this rare accomplishment. Lewis Oil delivers.
This is Ward Scott, and I want to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. The Ward Scott Files premium sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care.
Meldon Law, the only official injury partner of the Florida Gators.
The Ward Scott Files Gold sponsors are Lewis Oil Company,
Shoot GTR,
On the Spot Dry Cleaners, R&R Construction, and Style Cuts. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, you can visit our website, www.wardscottfiles.com, and click on the Advertise Here banner on the right side of the page, or call my friend Freddie at 352-284-3733. Again, thank you to all the great businesses that support the Ward Scott Files. And remember, if you like the show, thank our sponsors and support the businesses that support us.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. May God have mercy on your soul.
Or that very much surprises me that you've never been tased.
You can't handle the truth.
All bees poop.
A warthog. He's going to come up the steps. Here he comes. Oh my goodness, and he's huge. Hello, boy. I wonder if we can pet him. Hi, boy.
Can we touch him? No, don't.
Help me! Help! Help!
And we're back to the 3 Ps, the Political Pirate Podcast, with your host, John Martin, and the captain of our pirate ship, Mr. Ted Yoho. Well, when we went to break, we were talking about whether or not President Trump should be considered the GOAT, the greatest of all time. Is he that now? Is he moving that way? And I certainly, and Ted agreed with me, think he is definitely moving that way at the very least. But so I've been playing different ones of presidents and stuff that they what they said. But I want to play President Trump right now because he literally, because Obama, remember, we saw Mr. Biden say, just don't when it comes to attacking Israel.
It wasn't that forceful, John. It wasn't that forceful. It was
like, don't. Like the Crypt Keeper, don't. And then, of course, Obama said back when he was president that America needed to lead from behind and all that. But it turns out that Donald Trump actually answers the question of what kind of leadership we needed. And so let's just play this. This was at his kind of quasi State of the Union address shortly after he was elected. Check it out, and then I'll turn it back.
This says it all.
Absolutely.
And our friends in the Democrat Party kept saying we needed new legislation. We must have legislation to secure the border. But it turned out that all we really needed was a new president. The media
Turns out,
and
Ted,
our friends in
really
the Democrat Party kept saying we needed new legislation.
It is. I can't tell you how many times when I was in Congress and it was about the border, and it was always, we need more money. We need more money. I'm like, just enforce the laws on the book. That doesn't cost you any money. So, yeah, we needed a new president, and it's very clear, and the results speak for themselves. Again, is he the GOAT? In modern times, absolutely. No doubt about it. No doubt about it.
Well, we're talking about whether it should be on Mount Rushmore or not. There's actually a part of the mountain that comes up like that, and people have pointed out that they don't even have to do his hair; they just have to carve under it because it kind of.
Have you seen that picture? Have you seen that picture?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting.
I think it's great. I think down the road it may happen.
By the way, and I'm sure you probably have, if you're out there and you've never been to Mount Rushmore,
it's awesome.
It is awesome. It is spectacular. And the area around there is just unbelievable. So I would strongly encourage you to go there, whether Trump gets on there or not, and take a kid, children, grandchildren, or whatever. You will not regret it. That's for sure.
We went out there. We were on a 32-day trip with my kids and Carolyn and our dog. And that was towards the end of the trip. And the kids were just tired of seeing stuff. And so Carolyn and I get to Mount Rushmore. We've never been there. So we get there and the kids are like, I'm not going to go. And we looked at each other and said, we're leaving you in the car. See ya. Left the windows open. Not good parenting. Maybe it was, it taught them. They'll have to see it on their own now, but it was spectacular to see. Yeah.
Really, yeah, absolutely.
Makes you proud of American.
We're talking about whether President Trump deserves the title of greatest of all time. But the thing is, it's interesting that a lot of the left, at first they came out a little bit grudgingly so and said Donald Trump deserves credit for freeing the hostages. They've kind of slowly, or pretty quickly, it's only been a week, backing away from that. And people have pointed out, well, even Hillary Clinton said that, gave him credit. And I pointed out to them, she probably just don't want to go to jail. She don't want to get indicted. Because like Bolton, by the way, just got indicted.
He sure
today.
did. I believe he's going to the big house in an orange suit. But what you were saying, how they give credit and they want to take it back, that's typical of the Democrats. If you look at what they do over and over again, they do that. He did something else not too long ago, and they praised him. Oh, it's D.C., the mayor of D.C., Marion Bowser. Trump went in there, crime rate went down. She praised that. And then within a week, she's saying, we don't need him here. In fact, we're suing him.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if you need proof that Donald Trump makes a difference, that him being president made a difference, I want you to hear it straight from one of the hostages' mouths about what happened when he was being held hostage and he got let out about a year and a half into it, like 500 and some odd days into it. I don't think anyone could say it better than this gentleman, so I'll be quiet and we'll play the video.
Wanted
who?
Terrorists.
We're afraid of Trump.
Yeah, they wanted Kamala to be chosen, to be elected.
You talked politics with them?
Yeah. They wanted Kamala to be elected. But as soon as Donald Trump was elected, they understood that he wants to bring the hostages back home. Yeah. So immediately the way they treated me changed. So if it's the amount of food, I could say this, that when Trump became president, yeah, the way they treated us changed for me personally. This is what I
think
felt.
because they anticipated that a deal would come soon.
Yeah.
And that's when they started giving you more food.
Exactly. More food, treated me better, stopped cursing me, stopped spitting on me.
I mean, there you hear it, Ted, from the hostage himself, that literally said that the Hamas people told him that they were pulling for Kamala Harris. And then when she lost, they started actually feeding them better and treating them better because they knew that the painting, the handwriting was on the wall, that they were going to ultimately be released by Donald Trump. I mean,
this is something that comes up over and over again. If people want more proof of what Trump has done, look at what Putin said. I mean, Vladimir Putin said he would not have invaded Ukraine had Donald Trump been president. And we can go through the list over and over again of what people have said. And some people say, well, we're not going to do that because we're not sure about Trump. He's a little unhinged, they think. But you know what? That's a good thing. It's walking softly and carrying a big stick. And they didn't know how he was going to respond to a lot of these world events, but Putin did. And I think it speaks loudly of him. Is he going to be the greatest of all times? We'll see. Right now he is in my lifetime.
If you need more proof, I want to play another video about one of the hostages. You may recall that we've played this, not this video, but another video where this gentleman was literally digging his own grave.
Yep.
Now, he's been freed along with all the other 20 some odd hostages or whatever. But I want you to pay attention to, if I picked up on this as he was freed, because the former guy, the video we just played, said they started treating them better and feeding them more. If you remember that video when he was digging his own grave, he looked like a Holocaust survivor.
He sure did. He really did.
Skin and bones, a skeleton. Now that he's been released, which was a few months later after this video, he looks a whole lot better. He looks certainly well fed and that. So I think it's proof. But I want you to see, because this is the gentleman that was digging his own grave, and look how he looks and how he was welcomed when he got back to Israel. His parents are in this van with him. Check it out.
That's a car.
I mean, that guy, from digging his own grave to literally back with his parents in front of probably 1,000 Israeli citizens cheering for him and praising him. And there's countless videos of this. I mean, my God, you can hate Donald Trump all you want, be irrational, whatever, but how can you not give him credit for that? And I'll say one more thing, and I'll turn to you, Ted. I hear people say, yeah, but I don't know if this peace is going to hold. That may or may not be true, but do you think the parents of that young man are even worried about that right now? I mean, they got their people back. It's unbelievable.
Well, that, to me, that just shows what freedom is. I mean, that guy went from being held as a hostage, abused, beaten, starved to death, digging his own grave, to freedom. I mean, you look at the contrast in just the way they project themselves, and that's what this is about. This is freedom, and Donald Trump is one that is pushing freedom around the world as we experience, versus what you saw with Joe Biden, and God forbid if Kamala Harris was in there. It would be a disaster what's going on in the world right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so the case is still out there. Will Donald Trump be the GOAT, the greatest of all time? Does he deserve to be on Mount Rushmore? Chime in on our show. Let us know your thoughts on that. We'd appreciate it. But we're going to move on now to, and it's like, to me, are you kidding when I say this? This weekend, there's going to be the No Kings rally again, another one. And I'll show this map. There's the map right there. Now, Florida's covered up, a red state. There's going to be one in Gainesville. I wish I could cover it, but I'm going fishing. I'm not worried about the Kings rally, that kind of thing. But my God, man, a No Kings rally. I mean, are you kidding me, Ted? What are your thoughts on that?
You know, they tried this before in Jacksonville, I think a week or two ago, and it was a very poor showing. And so they more organized. And these are paid protesters. I mean, it's all very well documented. The paid protesters that are showing up, they have the same talking scripts. It's unlike the Tea Party rallies that were just organic in nature. And when you've got to pay people to protest, you don't have a cause. I mean, it's just people are out there, they hate, and they want to be involved in hating. And it is a joke, you know. And as well, you're going to talk about this, about would a king do what Donald Trump has done with freeing hostages?
Yeah,
and I'll let you talk about that.
We'll go ahead and put this picture up. I call it the No Kings picture, and you have to kind of look closely at it. That is actually Kamala and Biden, but it's hard to read what's underneath there. I got it posted, or I will if I don't already, on our Facebook sites. But I mean, they're talking about Donald Trump being a king when Kamala Harris became president without any. Well, first of all, there was no primary for Joe Biden. Really, they wouldn't let people run. They wouldn't let RFK, a lifelong Democrat, run. They forced him out. But then Biden got out, and they anointed Kamala Harris with no vote. She got to be the leader of the Democratic Party, the nominee for president, with absolutely no votes cast whatsoever. She has never, before she became the candidate for Democrat, actually gotten a single vote for president. People need to understand that. I'm going to say that again. Kamala Harris, until she got anointed, had never gotten a single vote for president because she dropped out in the primary before the Iowa caucuses when she ran the first time.
Yeah. Well, and this goes back to, educating people. Who's controlling the politics? You've got a machine, and during that election, it was the Obama machine that wanted to anoint her because he didn't want to go back on the things that he has done to fundamentally transform America. The DEI, the wokeism, just the direction we were heading in. And so they anoint this person, not through the electoral process or the democratic process. They pick a stooge that they can control, like they did with Biden. And this is why you've got to pay attention to what's going on. She was not by far a candidate that should have been even in the race. As you pointed out, she lost the primaries, and she wouldn't have been around had it not been for Joe Biden being directed by Barack Obama and his team that was directed by people that want to destroy this country. I mean, and so this is where we're sitting. And the same thing's going on in New York City. Same thing went on with Ilhan Omar. Same thing went on with AOC. They were picked by Democratic Progressive Party, which is a communist party. And they're picking these people to run for these areas where they know they can win. And people need to wake up and reject this and just say, we're not going down this road. This is a constitutional republic, and we like our liberty and freedom. It's not perfect, but we can fix it. But we're not going to allow these people to come in here and destroy it.
Yeah, well, you alluded to Madami right there. I tell you what, man, I want on one hand say I feel sorry for New York, but they're bringing it on themselves. It looks like a disaster is going to happen there, and Madami is going to win. I don't know if you saw the video of, I don't have it teed up, but when he was actually interviewed on Fox yesterday, and he said in the interview, he was specifically asked whether or not Hamas will disarm and the whole thing with Donald Trump. And this guy literally looked in the camera and said, I have no opinion. I'm articulating it hard as I can. No opinion on Hamas. He has no opinion on Hamas. He's looking to be the mayor of the largest Jewish population outside of Israel. And he also said, Ted, globalize the infantada, which means kill all non-believers. And he's back the river to the sea policy, but he has no opinion on Hamas. Give me a break.
Yeah, really. And Hamas is designated as a foreign terrorist group. And I mean, it's a shame that the New York people have that much hatred for Trump and the conservative movement. And they're going to elect this guy. I listened to him. He's very articulate. And watching him against Andrew Cuomo, I mean, poor guy. I mean, he shouldn't even be in the race, but that's the best the independents have to give. The Democrat, he dropped out of the race. Alvin, or the mayor, he dropped out of the race. And in that debate, I have to say, Madani seemed a lot more poised, a lot more direction. His message is just wrong. It's a socialist communist message. Wake up, New York. Don't do it.
People, I don't hold people to account that you have to agree with me to get respect, but I would give Madami some respect if he would simply look in the camera and say, I'm all supportive of Hamas. They're fighting for their freedom. I mean, I wouldn't agree with that, but at least I would respect him for that. But you mentioned Como, and Como said if he loses, he's probably moving to Florida. I don't think he's coming to Hawthorne, but he might come somewhere near you, Ted.
I don't believe it'd be Wielaka either. But you just said that Madani, by not denouncing Hamas, he agreed with them. You know, if you don't believe in their ideology, you would say, I don't believe in their ideology. But by saying no comment, you know, he basically was an underhanded endorsement.
Absolutely. Well, this No Kings thing, one of the things that's interesting about it is that there's speculation out there that the shutdown that's happening, the Democrats are not going to compromise at all until at least after this rally on Saturday. They didn't want to add fuel to the fire against them. They want it focused on Trump, and they were afraid that if they caved and did the right thing, that they would end up being chastised by this very group. So there are thoughts that after this is over, that the shutdown may end. So what are your thoughts on that? And what are your thoughts about where we are in the shutdown right now, Ted? Because right now, and I'm not saying it is trivial, but compared to what's just happened in Israel and the Middle East, it almost seems trivial.
Yeah, it does. Other than it needs to keep our government running, and we can't do good around this country or in the world without it. But if you look at this, what I predict is you're going to see the Republicans cave a little bit on the healthcare subsidies. They're going to extend them, the healthcare subsidies that weren't there prior to COVID. So people were paying their own insurance, you know, their portion of that. It got waived or they had these subsidies come in with the COVID and those other bills that Biden passed. So the Republicans are going to allow an extension of that, which is you're subsidizing people's health care, which we shouldn't have been doing in the first place. And we can talk more about that, you know, about health care for people that didn't have it. But they want to go back. They don't want to go back to where we were prior to COVID. And so I think you're going to see the Republicans agree to an extension of the extenders for the supplementation. And it'll be a short-term one until they get through the shutdown. And then they're going to do that and keep extending those through the midterms. And then we'll see what happens after that. It's politics. It's the way things are made. I don't like it. Those are the things I took hard stances on. And, you know, we'll see how this turns out.
Well, if in fact
I agree, it's after this King's rally, you're going to see both sides kind of change, and they'll come up with a plan. I agree with you. It'll happen after this.
Yeah, if the president, of course, he's the leader on this, but the Senate and that if they agree to some type of continued subsidies, and I think you're likely right about that. And now what I'm about to say, I know it would have no binding effect, but I think he should at least try to request from the Democrats that they pass a joint resolution or whatever, proclamation, whatever, saying that we need to support our ICE agents and get, you know, these criminals, illegal immigrants out of our communities. Something that I don't know exactly how to word it. They'd be better at it than me, but something that basically gives support and takes away from the sanctuary city aspect. That would, to me, be a legitimate compromise. They probably won't do it, but
that would be good poker playing there. I mean, yeah, we'll do this. It's a tit for tat type of thing. And
at least put them on the spot.
Yeah, you're not going to get everything you want in politics, unfortunately. You know, it'd be one-sided, it'd be a dictatorship, and we don't want that. So we'll see how this turns out. I've been holding my nose ever since the Affordable Care Act got passed, and I haven't liked anything that's come since then. Remember that this extended tax relief was supposed to be temporary. So was food stamps was supposed to be temporary. It was temporary assistance for needy family. It was called TANF, and that was supposed to be temporary. But now it's one of the largest programs in the USDA under the Farm Bill, and there's over $20 billion in fraud annually in it. So I don't know. The government just gets bigger and it gets more cumbersome and more costly.
Well, are there any temporary laws actually?
Nothing temporary the government does. It's like TSA was supposed to be a temporary program. but it's one of the largest employers of the federal government.
Well, this is a total side note, and I'm not going to mention any names.
I throw you off track quite often.
Yeah, but no, what I'm about to say, you talk about temporary. One of the things that always got me is you hear, and I'm talking about quite a few conservatives, friends of ours, that got elected to the state legislatures and stuff, right? And they were freshmen. Well, Florida's got a rule that you can only put forward 6 bills. I think it is total 6 bills. Doesn't mean you're going to get them passed, but you can't put more than 6 in. And these legislators would come back and brag about their first session that, hey, I got 3 of my bills passed or whatever, or 2 that got considered. They'd brag about it. And I'd want to ask them, well, how many laws did you get repealed while you were up there?
Yeah,
that's right. What we really need.
It really
just grows and grows and grows.
I told that to Kevin McCarthy when he wanted to run for speaker. And I said, well, tell me why. And he goes, well, I raised more money than anybody else has raised, more than Boehner and Paul Ryan. I said, that's great, Kevin. I says, but I don't think we need that much money in office, in politics. And he goes, well, I passed 700 some bills. I said, again, Kevin, that doesn't impress me. I said, I don't think the American people need 700 some bills. I think we need to get rid of some bills. And he just looked at me like, this guy's not going to support me, which I didn't. So,
yeah, but that's why we need more Ted Yohos right there. Well, I'm going to throw out a kind of a hodgepodge of issues here to get your thoughts on Ted. Probably the biggest one is there's going to be apparently a meeting again in the White House between President Trump and Zelensky, and that's a prelude to a series of meetings in Hungary, I think it is, where
right.
Trump and Putin are going to meet, and Trump and Zelensky, and maybe all 3. It's still kind of up in the air exactly what's going to happen. But the big issue right now is whether or not the United States is going to give Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine. And President Trump on his Air Force One was interviewed about it. And he said, I just got off the phone with Putin, and I even joked about whether or not you think I should give Tomahawks to the Ukraine, and he didn't like that too much. So what is your thoughts on where we are with that piece, the Tomahawk missiles in general? Because I'm kind of suspect to that, and I'll tell you why in a minute, but just give me your general thoughts.
This comes down to true Trumpism. This is the art of the deal. He's throwing out stuff that are going to be really toxic. You don't want them out there and to the other side, to Putin. And Putin doesn't want that because he knows the effectiveness of that. He knows the effectiveness that the Ukrainians will have with that. And that's a game changer. And we've gone from I don't want to say a passive stance when the war broke out. Of course, you had Biden in there, and we weren't giving any lethal support in the beginning. And then it's slowly changed. And Trump didn't want to do that. He didn't want to have any armaments going in there from the U.S. But as Putin has backed off on saying he's going to come to a resolution, more force needs to be put. And Trump found this out when he did that meeting in Alaska, thinking, oh, I've got Putin, I can control him, I can get him to change his mind. Putin made a fool out of Trump at the time, because he went in there and did more, and he started to bomb the capital Kyiv. And Trump said, this has got to change. We've got to have a game changer. This will be a game changer, and it'll get Putin to come to the table. But it's like bringing Hamas and Israel together. You come to the table, you start negotiations, you get the beginnings of a peace process. Where it'll go from there depends on your stance. And so this will bring Putin to the table. They will come up with some kind of a peace process or a stop military action. But we'll see where it goes after that. And that's only going to be, depending where it goes, only will depend on the leverage that the United States can give through Donald Trump playing strong-handed here, peace through strength, those kind of things.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. My and let me just say this up front. I could be absolutely wrong about
not you, this, John, not you. I've never.
Without doubt. My concern about the Tomahawk missiles is those are very lethal.
They are.
They have the capacity to damage way into Russia, which I'm not saying they don't necessarily deserve it, but it'd be one thing if they were targeting like military stuff, maybe power grids, But I'd hate to see a rain of Tomahawk missiles come down in the middle of Moscow, because that might create a situation that ultimately leads to some type of nuclear confrontation and escalate the situation. We may be going there anyway. But my first thought, and I'd love to hear your opinion on this, Ted, is maybe we should threaten that. But what we could do immediately, besides all the sanctions, which need, and the oil and all that needs to absolutely happen, but maybe we just give air defense, even if it's NATO led, to Ukraine, saying nothing's coming in, and any intrusion into NATO airspace is going to be met with immediate reaction, shot down, all of that kind of stuff. That maybe that would be the first step before Tomahawks. But like I say, I'm just concerned about what the possible escalation, and do we put Putin in a position where he feels like he has to do World War III kind of thing. I don't know.
Well, unfortunately, life, when you get to that level, you're like a poker game. You know, are you bluffing? Are you serious? Are you holding the right cards? And I agree with you. You know, if Russia incurs into somebody's airspace, invades that, I think they ought to have the response that President Recep Erdogan of Turkey had when Russia came into their airspace. He blew up their plane. No questions asked, just blew it up because they came in. He didn't care if it was a mistake or the guy just strayed a little bit. He blew up their plane. And I think you're going to see more of that. It's a strong stance, and it's a warning. Don't mess with us. We're serious. You stay on your side, we'll stay on our side. And with Trump doing this, Putin's got to think, is he going to allow them to use that? And, you know, when we send those missiles over to somebody like Ukraine, you know, they're under the command of us. You know, they just can't use them willy-nilly. There has to be accountability for them. And, you know, you may see some bombings go into the capital of Russia. And, you know, where's that going to go next? What's going to be the next play of Putin? We don't know. The ideal situation is the people in Russia would rise up against Putin and get him out of there and work at coming, you know, having a peace process. I just saw something pop up on my feed here that said at the Kremlin, Putin and Trump are going to sign something. So we'll see where that leads to.
Yeah, what'll be fascinating is if we arm Ukraine and they start pulverizing Russia, and Russia starts surrendering, will the Democrats then switch and stand for Moscow? You know,
they probably would. They probably will. You know, and this has been throughout history. The Democratic Party has done this. I mean, I've read so much history to where they've always been on the underdog, not for the benefit of the underdog, but to show how much care they have and how much compassion, and it's to stay in power and grow the government bigger. And it's historical. I mean, you can see what they've done over and over again. You know, they don't care so much about people, even though they talk about, we care about the people, you know, the starving people, the downtrodden. Yeah, they say that, but then you look at programs like the Great Society under Lyndon Johnson. It's destroyed the black families, but the minority families. You look at the married households, and I mean, you just look at the kids being born out of wedlock. That's thanks to the government intervening into helping people, and in their process, they make people dependent on their program so they stay in power.
Well, we only got kind of a few minutes left, but I want to play this video because it's kind of my video of the week, if we have one, certainly of the day. And my question is, will the Dems ever stop their nonsense? Okay. And I'm not sure this is totally blaming on the Democrats, but they certainly support it. This video I'm about to play it was a hack done at airports. It was aired yesterday, I believe, at several major airports in the United States and a couple in Canada as well. Check this out, and we'll come back and talk about it real quick.
Yoho and Trump. Turkish hacker Cyber Islam was here. Telegramtional Cyber Islam. Free Palestine. Free Palestine. Free Palestine. Hacked by Murid Long, Live Free Palestine. Hacked by Murid. Hacked by Cyber Islam. Yoho and Trump. Turkish hacker Cyber Islam was here. Telegramtional Cyber Islam. Hacked by Murid Long, Live Free Palestine. Hacked by Murid. Hacked by Cyber Islam. Netanyahu and Trump.
I hope people can hear it. Basically, what that did, it started out by being critical of Trump and Netanyahu, but then it said free Palestine over and over and over in major airports across the United States and in Canada. Will they ever stop this nonsense?
No, they can get away with it. Two things about that. It's scary that somebody can hack into their communication systems. So if they can hack into that, can they hack into the air traffic control? Can they hack into our water and municipalities, which we already know China and these other countries can? But the other thing about that, John, is Kristi Noem put out a PSA, public service announcement at airports because people are worried about the government shutdown. Is air traffic going to continue? Is TSA going to continue? And her announcement was a little bit political, I'll say. Due to the Democrat shutdown, people are concerned about airports operating like they should. And I'm going to assure you, this is her talking, that these are going to operate. There were several airports that refused to play that, and they were all in liberal Democratic airport terminals because they said it was too political. But yet she was trying to allay the fears of people traveling, which when you're in an airport, you're traveling, it's a disaster if something shuts down like that. And so, they choose not to run that, but yet somebody can hack in there and play this very political message that had no business being played at all.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I hope you've enjoyed our show as much as we've enjoyed bringing it to you. Please like what we're doing, share what we're doing far and wide, support our sponsors, become a sponsor, because we want to increase our reach and bring you even more shows. Ted, I'm going fishing as soon as we end this deal, and you have yourself a blessed and fantastic weekend. Close us out, sir.
No, I appreciate everybody, and yeah, we want to get this message out far and wide, and we can only do that with your help and your support. So we appreciate that, and John, we hope it's fair winds, tight lines, and you catch a lot of fish. I am landlocked. I will not be fishing here while we're up here in North Georgia, although I could through some streams. But you have a wonderful weekend. We want to put out the dolls for good luck for the Gators, that they win at their homecoming and bring in the pride of the Florida Gators at the Florida Stadium. Y'all take care. Have a great weekend, and God bless.
Peace out.